Okay, everybody, Ron with Sandcar Services, and tech tip of the day is going to be back on 930 CVs. So I'm doing this midboard complete teardown on the midboard prep. I'm putting the driver's side back together right now, and I was noticing that, and it's pretty standard, he has 930 CV bolts, but he's running the wide washers. The problem that you have is you have to make sure, you really need to measure the distance between the inside of your CV and the outside of your cage. It's going to be hard for me to do some of this with one hand, and I don't have a filmer today, but this is a standard 930 drive flange. So I'm going to see if I can explain this in basic terms that most everybody can understand. So what we have is there's 3 bolts right now that are in this CV. The top one is the one that I now sell and the one I stock that Weddell manufactures. It's 2 1/8 inches long from underneath the head to the end of the threads. Most standard 3/8, 24, 12-point bolts, like the ones you'd get from Cartech, are typically 2 1/4 inches from underneath the head to the end. So we've talked in the past about these bolts going through the CV flange, because on the back side of the CV flange is the seal on the side of your Mendiola. And if the bolt goes through more than 2 threads, you can actually gouge your seal out and cause a transmission leak through the side flange. And if you put too long of a bolt in, you can actually spin that seal and destroy the side housing on the transmission. So I haven't seen any transmissions yet that the new Weddell bolts, which are the ones I sell, have not worked on. I'm not saying that they're perfect on every one, because I haven't worked on everybody's sand rails, but so far they've been the right bolt for all 930s with standard flanges. So if you're running one of the Grease Buddies or something like that, don't even bother finishing this video. Because you're running a spacer and you have to be really critical on your bolts. They have a different length. But so what we have, I just wanted to show everybody. So the Weddell bolt from underneath the hat and to the end, see if I can do this with one hand. Is roughly 2.103 inches. If you look at the one that came out of the customer's car, which is actually shorter than most of them, it's basically 2.2, so just shy of 2 1/4 inches. So it's actually a little bit shorter than the ones we normally measure, because normally we're getting 2 1/4 inches. The problem with this one is this bolt is almost the right size, but when they put the washer on it, especially this thick washer, what it ends up doing is it ends up pulling the bolt through. And if you look at this really carefully, there is almost no threads sticking through the CV to hold this thing in. Now, mind you, it is going to crush in a little bit when it tightens down, but it's only sticking through 0.3. That's not even a 1/2 inch. And then this is a 930 standard drive flange, and if you look, most of the drive flanges all seem to average just a hair under 1/2 inch, so 0.496. If you let it kind of be loose and not tighten it down, it's a 1/2 inch. So what you want ideally is you want a 1/2 inch of thread sticking out of the back of your CV into your flange, and really no more, because the gap between the back of your flange and the beginning of your seal is literally hundreds of thousandths of an inch. It's not a lot of room. There's like maybe 2 threads or 3 threads that you can have extra if you're lucky, and it depends on how far in the transmission shop pressed the seal. If they didn't press it all the way in, then you're going to hit it earlier. I typically press mine in as far as I can get them to go, as long as the housings aren't modified and it has to be set a certain depth. So, I mean, everybody can call Sean or Dustin or Ron up at Weddle and order bolts. I stock these here at my shop. If you're interested in them, I usually stock 50 of them at a time. But I'm going to convert this customer over to the Weddle bolts because without the washers, he's probably going to be just a touch too long. With the washer, without the washer, he's probably going to be a touch too long, which is this one. With the washer, he's going to be too short for my taste. And then the Weddle bolt is right there. It's just shy of a ½ inch. So by the time it crushes down, it'll be right there at the back of the flange. So hopefully this helps somebody out. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing, but these 930 drive flange seals on the 2Ds and the E-boxes, when I'm getting them in, there's still way too many of them that are gouged up because the bolts are incorrect. And I'm going to say as a disclaimer, there's nothing wrong with the bolts that Cartech sells. It's just the industry standard seems to have always been, all the way back as far as I can remember, 2 1/4 inches. But the flanges have changed over the years in thickness and stuff like that as far as the boot flange is concerned, which is what your boot bolts to. So anyway, if you have any questions, everybody knows where to find me. This is Ron with Sandcar Services. Once again, thanks for the tech talk. And if anybody thinks of anything I missed, go ahead and chime in. Thanks for watching.